What's going on, Workforce? Brian and Chris here. Today we're actually talking about something historical. We've both never have finished a relic until now. Chris just finished his relic last week. Congrats. What does it look like?
Looks like a hammer. Step one is I glammed it immediately because I got it for E12S Sprog. So I got it to increase item level. It was my first one to ever finish. Finished my warrior one. I'm staging my other 3 tank weapons at 515 so that my Sage and Reaper running level 70 dungeons can go ahead and grab those remaining components for me.
That's actually a great tip. So guys, if you aren't aware, you can stage. So if you are going to level Sage and Reaper, you could actually be kind of double dipping when Endwalker launches if you want to finish up a couple more glamored relics for that expansion. So congrats, obviously. And I guess the conversation with us kind of shifted to where we wish there were more hammers in the game once you told me that you reclaimed your freaking relic.
Back to the hammer.
I have kept mine. I really enjoy the look and feel. I got my white mage relic, and I've got my gunbreaker staged a little bit, and I'm working on summoner. After seeing summoner's changes at the live letter, I was like, I really want to get one of those fancy books. I think that will be something to kind of really go along with the with Endwalker's expansion, and it should be a lot of fun. But today we want to sit down and actually talk about like why this is a relic that we actually finished, what we would change about the relic system overall from this current iteration, and what we also loved about this experience, and why I think this was the experience that had us actually crossing a finish line for the first time in our Final Fantasy XIV career. For me, it's a long career, like 11 years with this game. And then with you, 7 or 8 years, whenever ARR, originally launched. So that's a lot of expansions. That's 4 expansions. And in the 4th expansion, we did it. We did it. And honestly, I enjoyed this relic experience. Sure, there's things I want to change, but I want to highlight the best parts. So Chris, what are the best parts of this relic experience for you?
The flexibility. The ability to do multiple things at the same time. So yes. I want my relic eventually, but I also want to run content that's really fun. And when possible, I also would like to level up jobs that I haven't leveled. And I would like a sense of variety where one of the things we always ask for is leverage past content. And so having options to, if I want to, go spam past content as an effective relic leveling. I just described what sounds like a lot of different things, and that is all underneath the Shadowbringers relic system. So it's incredibly flexible.
Yes. And that I 100% agree that people want to ask me like, how did you actually get this? Because I started every relic in the previous expansion and at some point just fell off the relic train completely and never got back on, despite the fact that I knew that they'd even make it easier. And I think the fact that I knew they would make it easier kind of led to that just delayed procrastination in that regard. It's like, okay, I know it's going to get easier. I'll jump back into it because it didn't have that flexibility. So I opted for leveling. I opted for going and doing something, that I wanted to do. And what I really appreciated about this one was that ability to go and I could go to do fates or I could go into the zone. And when I look at like Eureka, as this is a natural evolution of the Eureka, gameplay model, I enjoyed Eureka as a concept, but in practice, if I didn't have the time that I felt like I could put into the zone, then I just decided not to go into the zone. If I only had 30 minutes, I only did what I could do in 30 minutes, as opposed to jumping into Eureka for 30 minutes and trying to level up in that world. And so I can go and do fates, or I can go here, or I can go do this, with the exception of gaining metal. And so I think honestly, one of the thoughts that I've had with it'd be neat to see if there was a way that they allowed you to gain metal outside of the zone, but on, obviously a very smaller scale. Obviously you still want your enhancement being driven into that zone itself. You still want that to be the premier way. And so essentially when we got all this flexibility with leveling and content, I thought like, what if there was like a weekly bonus, like run 3 leveling roulettes, and you know what, we're going to toss you, some metal, just so that you have it as a part of it. So if you literally hated the metal and the Eureka system, but you didn't mind all the alternates, you ended up having at least a different way. And maybe then ultimately you only had to run a handful of the content itself to do. One of the things that we're actively trying to do with the community within Work to Game, Ginger Prime, and Gaming Kinda, is help people get through to the different raids so that they can continue to progress on the relic system. What do you think, Chris? What do you think about that idea?
I mean, I can understand it as a flexibility, and maybe it's tied to something like Wondrous Tales, where you get a token for it, or something
exactly.
that pretty heavily limits it. I would want it to remain heavily limited. One of the beauties of these systems is they are self-contained progression systems. And I kind of like that the best way, if you want to get further within Bozja or Eureka, how do you get there? Bozja or Eureka. And so I like the idea that to build my Aether pool in Palace of the Dead or Heaven on High, the best thing I can do is run Palace of the Dead or Heaven on High. There is no alternative Aether pool generator from Irregular Tombstones or Poetics or Wondrous Tales. And I kind of like that, that's your reward for that. And the external rewards, there's mounts and stuff tied to those, and those regularly are available through things like Irregular Tombstones. And so, there can be aspects of it that branch out. So I would rather say, if somebody wants metal but doesn't want to do Bozja, why?
Yeah.
And odds are it's because they want to try Delibram, they want to try Del Reyta, they want to try Castrum Latorum, or they want to have access to the mounts that are available in that system. And all of those are things where you could remove the metal requirements to get people into Castrum, Del Reyta, and stuff long term. And then you could also make those mounts available through things like the Irregular Tombstone campaigns, and that gives them a path to the thing they want, without taking away from people who earned valors by spending time in that content, without saying, okay, now you've got some guy that has full valors and has never set foot inside the zone.
Right, exactly. The other crazier idea, just to kind of compound that, just to get your thoughts on it, because I love your thoughts on economy, is that what if they let you sell, you could generate those coins as a player and sell them on the market?
The coins for the gear?
No, the coins are to turn into metal.
Oh no.
You're WoW. Oh my gosh, the fact you WoW simp, it's seriously WoW in the non-player economy, man. I tell you.
No, so there is a because Benny's working on getting the mount from getting all the
the Cerberus mount.
No, the history for getting all the little history scraps, the little pieces of paper.
Yeah,
you build your little textbook of Zadnor, and they give you a mount for that, the motorcycle. Mm-hmm. And those are market prohibited.
The mounts are, or the
pieces of paper,
right?
Yeah, the non-musical orchestrion scrolls, and so you have to go get those yourself. Yeah, and that's the only way to get that mount. It's a mount. It's a skin.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool to go lock something like that, as same with the pterodactyl mount. Mm-hmm. If you could just sell Ishgard Restoration scripts or Ishgard Restoration progress points, you could just sell. Then the problem with that is there is a whole host of where you start to incentivize pay to win, where you no longer have any source of achievement, and it's literally just becomes a flex in wealth. If everything gets converted to something that can go on the market board, this game becomes literally an economy simulator. And while I do have frustrations with the economy in this game, I don't know that what we want to play is, Final Fantasy XIV Wall Street bets. I don't know that that's the objective. Sometimes a video game needs to just remain a video game. And that means that sometimes there are inefficiencies that are there intentionally.
Yeah, that just frustrates me that the theme park model is more popular than the sandbox. Because it's at the end of the day, who cares? Who cares if I wanted to go and make 1,000 million gil by crafting up items in the economy, and then I wanted to turn that gil into something else
because that's not where it stops.
Well, no, it does, but that's
the
whole
point. It stops in a
economy.
multi-million-dollar RMT industry.
Oh, the RMT industry is the be all end all. That's
where it stops.
Well, and it's always one thing that's existed, since the beginning. That's people would say, "Oh, you're an eBay player, you're an eBay hunter," back in WoW vanilla and things like that, where people would just buy and trade and sell characters.
Yes, but right now, people, if you say you buy gil, people's first response is not "you're terrible" or "I get it." It's why? And so what you don't want to do is shift that conversation from being why to I agree with that or I don't disagree with that. So the battle's already lost at that point. So you want to keep gil somewhat why. So do I wish that the market board worked better? Do I wish I could access all my retainers at once? There's some things that are just hard to be hard. Like, there's just no reason for that. It's like, yeah. I started
Maybe
storing my TV remote on my ceiling fan, and so every day I have to get a step ladder and get it down. And like, it's all why? Like, you're just making it harder to make it harder. But like, there sometimes there is good resistance, and I think that market prohibited means that certain things like would you? I mean, by that logic, do you think that Unreal weapons should be available as replicas through irregular tombstones, or should be sellable on the market board?
Sellable on the market board, yes, but irregular tombstones, no. It's just a skin. It has no value. And the fact is that you can go get like 1 billion gil and you want to go trade it. It works perfectly fine. Anybody who has an issue with that, I respect it, but it's ridiculous. Like it's putting the game in some kind of weird box that's set up because it's like, okay, we want to combat RMT, rather than actually like, well, what other systems could you put in place to combat RMT?
Except that was put in as a reward for Ultimate. Specifically as a reward for Ultimate.
And if somebody wants to run Ultimate and sell it, then why would you restrict that? Because you're treating the gear as a trophy, and that is not how it works, especially with Glamour. You took and earned your relic and turned it into a hammer that you get at level 76. That was your choice.
Trophy. And what's important about trophies,
it's not a trophy. Gear is not a trophy. The fact that people think it is a trophy needs to change in these games. No, it is not. No. It is not a trophy. It's a stat stick. It's a stat stick. Get another trophy.
Not an old relic or an ultimate.
Get another trophy system. Making gear a trophy is a freaking joke. It's a freaking joke making gear a trophy. That's why, with even relics themselves, they just become these glamour things.
No, because now you're saying there's only one way to enjoy gear. The only way to enjoy gear is if you like the visually. No, it's not, because there's a trophy. We're talking about it right now.
It's so freaking ridiculous. It's
the
so freaking ridiculous.
It's a trophy, and
I hate it. I absolutely freaking hate the fact that here's the trophy.
Glamour portion of it is valid, and the trophy portion is not, but it is both.
Yeah, that's how games treat it, but it sucks that they do that. Who cares if somebody wants to go and get a trophy and put it up on the market, right?
People who want trophies care.
That's why they need to get rid of the trophy concept. They don't need that. Like gear, it should be just gear and should be allowing you to play and look however you want. Like when you introduce a glamour system, you totally you take away. And so you could shift the focus from it being a trophy, because it really isn't. Nobody runs around with all their trophies.
People like my wife, when she plays video games with me, likes the way her character looks. And people, when I play video games with my brothers, don't care. Yeah. And by having it have a glamour option and a trophy component means my brother can go for gear and he can pick what gear he wants entirely based on how hard it is to get. And my wife can pick gear entirely based on how it looks. And they can both enjoy a cosmetic system differently.
And it's so broken.
But you're saying my brother's way is wrong and he doesn't belong.
I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm saying that the fact that we have a system that we created, it is ridiculous.
My brother's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, your brother is ridiculous, but I don't like it. I don't like the fact that we continue to sit here and prop up these systems, and I want to see a more player-driven economy, because that ultimately, I think, brings about a better playing experience. This is my opinion. I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, somebody could take advantage of it. Like, yeah, everybody takes advantage of it, but we try to build in these little box, and so when we talk about just literally being able to trade stuff in game, which we have examples of stuff that we do and we don't. So let's take it out of the relics, because people clearly are going to say they earned it, they want it, they want to show it off. There's 1,000 other ways of things that you could earn and show off. And I've said, outside of weapons themselves, what if it was just a special glow or special thing like titles or a trophy? They're a perfectly fine trophy. That's why separating it from the gear. So here's, I guess, let me clarify here in this regards. When it's attached to the stat stick, when it's attached to actual progression,
which Ultimate is not. Ultimate is not a progression weapon.
You could sit here and I could make kind of step back and say, you have a piece of gear that can only be acquired through a piece of content, but it has no stat measurements that's going to make you better. When we see progression, especially when it comes to the stat sticks tied to the trophy system, that's what I'm actually referring to, and having them actually completely separate that. Does that make sense? Separating progression from trophies, the system completely.
I think that selling progression starts to question, then what is the progression there to question how much wealth or something equivalently tradable to wealth, which could be skill and time, can you generate? Does it become a game about generation of skill, time, or wealth?
It's about preserving the value also.
Or is it about the core gameplay itself, and those are all adjacent. So when you play something like Rocket League or Halo,
okay,
they have all sorts of other systems that you can pay into and you can earn and all that. But ultimately, you spend most of your time treating the PvP portion of Halo or Rocket League. You spend your time in match-to-match content. Okay. And the cosmetics is something you do when you hop on a few minutes before your friend, or you stay on a bit after. Yeah. And ultimately, your car never has to look different. It has no value.
Right.
And so at that point, the gameplay is the core feature. In something like an MMO, that goes away. There is a question of I expect people to be max level. I expect people to have done this much story. I expect people to, and so there is a progression component that is intrinsic to the value of an MMO community. And so I do think there is a value in protecting that as a core tenet of what makes an MMO an MMO. And if you don't like that, there is a whole other subset of games that are also multiplayer, that are also available on all the same platforms, that can cater more to that audience. And for many of us, we play both. For many of us, I like getting different things out of playing Rocket League than I do out of playing Final Fantasy. And I like being able to balance my time. And there are people who are like, I play 5 minutes of Rocket League and the rest of my time's on. And there's people who invert that.
Yeah.
And so I like that there are things in 14 that just require time. I think they sell boosts for a reason, to skip the story. But I would rather them build a system that it was engaging to level. I would rather that's a band-aid to a problem. Right. So I like that there are grinds in the game, and I love optional grinds. I love that there is an Aether pool available within the Deep Dungeon system that I have to earn. I love that there and no amount of, well, I'll just do my crafting each week until I have enough money to purchase Deep Dungeon, because that's technically more efficient. No, that there is no way to get it other than to go into Deep Dungeon and just grind up your Aether pool. You just have to do it. And so I love that there are components to that. I do think you need to set aside a percentage. I think one of the frustrations with like Mog Station items is that they're like, well, we got a cosmetic and then we didn't get other cosmetics. And so what's important is like, we're not saying, hey, the next big round of weapons are all going to be tied behind Ultimate, and there are no cool looking weapons in Endwalker. No. There needs to be a host of cool looking weapons. And then we're going to take an additional weapon and tie it behind the Dragon Song War Ultimate in 6.1.
Right.
That way people are like, well, I want that one. Okay, well, pick one of the other ones. I don't know what to tell you. That one was designed exclusively for that content and will remain so.
Mm-hmm. I hope that over the course of the next several years or 10 years or whatever, like Yoshi P wants to do with this game, that they can continue to work on the game market. Because if somebody wants to go do X and then turn that into money, I have no issue with that. So if you want to go grind up your Aether pools and you want to level it up, and then you want to take that and you want to put it on the market for somebody who didn't have enough time, but they love to craft and they just craft, and they could take those items and then use them to increase their own Aether pool, it doesn't matter. I think when people sit here and say like, oh no, you can't do that because it takes away from me, it doesn't take anything away from you. Somebody still had to go run the content. They then decided to take that time and turn it into currency, and that's the value of currency. We don't have enough uses for gil in this game, and I don't see, and it's just this is just where MMOs trained me versus where WoW trained you in terms of what is a player-driven economy and what is not. And I think that player-driven economies have a lot more wealth in turning content into keeping it valuable, right? So
okay, so we started this conversation with relics, and I feel like the title on this video and thumbnail has already changed.
Yeah.
Because now what you're talking about is player economy.
Yeah.
And player economy is a totally different topic than relics.
But it's what we actually talked about with relics.
Two totally different topics.
Oh, absolutely not. Like they can be two different topics in two different videos, but especially when it comes to the relic and how, like, just the idea of being able to, you level and you can take that stuff and turn it into whatever you want. Like that player freedom, I think is really key. It ties into the relic system, what we're talking about, purely with flexibility.
No, because the flexibility was still limited. It wasn't or go to the market board and purchase these tokens. I still had to play on my character.
And
I can
what
play on whatever job I want. I can play whatever piece of content I want, but I still had to earn it. And what matters is that gives me a sense of something to chase, and I don't in my head say it doesn't really matter. I could also just buy a die off the market board that's non-market prohibited and then just trade it in for this, and then I end up just negotiating myself out of not doing it altogether.
I still think that's a good thing. I think that's a good system. I think the system that gives you the choice whether you want to engage with it or not engage with it is evened out by the economy. I think that's where it all kind of comes down to. Now, obviously, RMTs as a whole, bag of problems. But when it comes down to
so should the Amaro mount be sellable?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. If you have no use for it, you can put it up for sale. You're treating it like a trophy. And then for somebody it might be, but for somebody else, who cares? If you went and you crafted, all you did day in and day out in this game was make gear, level up your crafts. That's how you enjoy the game. You're like, I'm not going to go level these jobs. Like that is a great thing if you as a player had that, and that is essentially the game itself. It is. It's cool.
I think there should be things that are separate from the money system in games. I love the money system. I adore the money system in games. I think there should be things separate from it. I think it is absolutely incredible that somebody who does something I can't do gets something I can't get. I think that when you meet somebody in life who's achieved something that you don't know anything about, I think it's awesome that they have a different life experience than you. And if they get a different opportunity than you, that's awesome. I don't want that to be there's only one opportunity in the room and they get it and you don't. This is a game. It's a theme park. There's 600 opportunities. Yeah. So somebody saying, there's a blue Amaro that is grindable through, running open world fates and it's non-market prohibited. And there's the regular Amaro and that is acquired through having all level 80s. I'm perfectly fine with that. Two different skins being two different things, and those being, there is a Wondrous Tales mount available for the golden ticket that is non-market prohibited. There's also one that is market prohibited. And so for people that want to do their Wondrous Tales every single week and they get the mythical imaginary 3 line, there is one that is sellable and there is one that is not. And so the sellable one can be tradable. And yet we have also said for the people that have grinded this and want something that truly makes them stand apart, they can have that exclusivity, that trophy. And in no way does that take away from the people who got it, because they still get them out. That the sellable one's still like 7 million gil right now.
Yeah.
So like, what do they care what they're selling? So we gave you an expensive thing and we gave them something too. And so I think one of the things is with the player economy does exclusive mean the exclusionary? And like, if we have a limited supply, then inherently, yes.
Right.
Inherently, yes. But if we are doing exclusive in addition to, then no, I think there's plenty of options in game. When there's if there is 600 toys in your game room and one of your kids goes and gets one and comes downstairs to play with it, and the other kid goes up there and then goes, nope, I want the one they have. And they go down and say, I just want to take it for them because I should get to play with that toy too. I think it's fair to say, or you could just play with any of the other ones. There's so many.
Yeah.
And so if it's important to somebody to have a trophy, then let them have a trophy.
I would say, if with anything, the one change that I would make is make absolutely everything tradable in this game unless you've equipped it in that regards. Like, so bind on equip as opposed to this bind on it. I looked at it kind of aspect. I think it should all be tradable, and then the players then can engage in the economy or not. And that's where, especially when it comes down to the relic, what this showed me was flexibility and options are key. Trophy or not, like I don't subscribe to that. That
I would not have gone back and done those raids if I could have instead crafted for the money.
And why is that a bad thing?
This relic, because I enjoyed those raid experiences.
Okay.
That relic invited me into content that I wouldn't have gone into otherwise because it was on the list and I didn't have to do any of it. There was alternatives, and the relic itself is an inherently cosmetic piece that I didn't end up keeping the appearance to. It was an exercise in time. I didn't need the relic. There were other alternatives to get my item level. I could have done it through Diamond Extreme and had a 525 and been still well over geared for 512. We made it to E12. We made it to phase 2 with a 515 weapon. So like I didn't need it. And so it actually encouraged me to go run all of Alexander. And I hadn't seen Alexander in years. And what that did is that planted the seed inside me to say, I really like this. let's go do some unsynced extremes,
right,
not tied to the relic. And then I farmed up mounts. And now, prior to Endwalker, I've gone and seen a bunch of old fights, which they did recommend, and I couldn't find the time for. But I was invited to do that by the relic system. And if they had given me a money option, a market option, I would have just traded money for it.
And that would have been you trading the
and I would have missed out on this experience. There are some times that no, it wouldn't have been.
Yeah, the experience doesn't get deleted because you decide to go and engage with it on the market.
No, it just doesn't exist in the first place. They didn't take the experience away. I just never had it. There are some times that you should encourage people to try 2 bites of something, even if they're like, I don't end up liking that food.
Right. Okay.
And it encouraged me to take 2 bites. And some of the foods I spit back out. They were like, hey, you can go solo Palace of the Dead. And I may do a solo Palace of the Dead run at some point, but I did not like farming it. So now people are like, hey, when you're leveling all these alts, how come you're not doing solo Palace of the Dead? Because I know I don't like it.
Yeah.
I know I don't like it. Because I tried it for the relic. It encouraged me to try it. And then I said, nope, what's the other option? And I went and did the other option. And had money been there, I like making money enough. I would have only done that. And I would have gotten to a point in this game where I'm like, I've done everything in the game. I've achieved everything. I have every mount, every title. I've done it. I find this game really boring. It's just making money. And then I would have quit. And I would have never known what the game had to offer.
Okay. All right. We'll just agree to disagree in that regards, because I have hopes that we'll see more things tradable on the market. But I think one of the challenges, I know I'm going to get so much hate on this video, but it's okay. One of the challenges I know it's going to have is that we already have an established economy. And so people have gil upon gil. So making and going into a player-driven economy would be a huge nightmare. But I wonder, with all the changes that they're making, if we won't see that at some point in the future. At the end of the day, guys, I do.
You don't want to play in a game where anybody with more economic knowledge than you can bully you around. I will win in that game. I will have anything I want in a purely economy-driven game.
Okay.
You don't want to play in that.
Why not?
Oh, it's not bad for me. I don't want to live in a world where I'm constantly able to take from somebody just because I have more economic knowledge than them. I like that there's a way for them to win.
There is a way. It seems more fair. There is a way for them to win. They can play the game.
Except that the game then is an economy simulator.
It doesn't. A player-driven economy doesn't 100% go to economy simulator. There is content, especially to go and supply the market with materials. You just can go play the game.
Have you seen EVE Online?
Yeah, I have. But I know that's where you go to in this model.
EVE Online allowed a pure economy silver. EVE Online allowed it to move solely player-driven economy.
Yeah.
And EVE Online became a bully system where a group of players under the name Goon Swarm went in and literally used it to start denying other players play experience. They would come in and buy every consumable you need and then destroy your ship, and then you don't have anything to buy. They literally started to use it to bully because they had so much money, everything else was boring.
Okay. And there's no real PvP in this game, right? Like, there's a clear difference, right? Like, acknowledge it, please, for the love of God.
So that's fine. There's no PvP, except that you could still go in and say, this is like the people who wanted to get the titles from Ishgard Restoration to stop other people from getting titles. You're now saying that money can do that. They don't even have to play 18 hours a day to deny. You acknowledge that was unhealthy behavior, that people go in and just deny titles.
And I'm saying now PvP
can purchase
versus PvE. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm saying now you can purchase. Now you turn PvE into PvP. I can guarantee I'm the only person on a server to get a title from Ishgard Restoration if I have enough money. If I have enough money, I can purchase. I can just have 12 accounts. I can purchase all 12, and I can guarantee that nobody grabs that title from me because I bought it all. There's an amount of money that buys that, and you just purchase a space on the leaderboard.
Yeah, and
I don't even have to give up the time.
Right, so you win your title, and then everybody wins by getting the money that you just pushed into the economy.
Not the people who wanted a title. They didn't want the money. They were sitting there trying to do the content.
So you're telling me the one thing that fixes this problem is to remove the title from a timing thing that people didn't seem to really enjoy in the first place.
No, I'm telling you that if you take it to money,
you've just told me that all of this content that we don't do becomes immediately valuable by switching this game into a player-driven economy. Thus, it feels like you're making my point for me, especially because there's not a PvP component. I mean, and maybe I'm not hearing you in this regard, so sorry.
You're assuming that if every player is wealthier, they will be happier.
No, I'm not.
You said they'll get the money. They don't.
They would.
Not
like,
everybody wants.
If they're willing to sell the thing to you, they're saying like, "Hey, would you buy this for $100?"
But the people going for the title weren't the ones selling. You got passed by everybody else taking part in the system.
Right, but now you're still going back to the PvP component that you just made, right? Like you're saying that you're now denying other people, but we're talking about a majority of a PvE game outside of, yes, the titles were a PvE PvP focus, and guess what? The community generally didn't like it. What was like Chili put like 40.
WoW and Eve, but that's because we've allowed WoW and Eve to run loose like this, and I'm telling you, you do not want exclusively bind on equip Savage gear. You do not want to live in a world where people are buying and selling clears, and that needs to be banned off the market board. It's unhealthy
That's a
behavior.
whole other problem within the game itself
That's
right
all
now,
economy.
and it doesn't
That's where the
exist
money
within
goes.
the economy. We don't have a player-driven economy, and we have that problem that you just listed.
But you're saying making the loot needs to be added to that. We need to make it worse. They're not even selling the clears anymore. They're just selling the loot straight up.
And what's wrong
Let's
with
just
selling
cut
the
the
loot,
middleman out.
But why not cut them out? Like somebody can go run and they can get the piece of gear, and then if they want to, they can sell it.
I can tell you that if they make the change that you're proposing, I will not play Final Fantasy anymore. I was asked recently, like, what would it take to quit 14? And I was like, man, it would take all these hypotheticals. Like, they'd have to stop listening to the community. They would never do that.
Oh, yeah. Like
the change you just proposed, I'm done.
Why?
I don't want to play that game. I've played those games. I left those games. I'll find another game.
Because player choice.
No, because I want things to mean something other than just money. I live in a world where a ton of my problems can be solved in money. I like a fantasy world where sometimes a shiny mount just means a shiny mount. And the moment you can put a dollar value on everything, everything's just a dollar amount.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think this was a fun conversation. Do you want to take us out?
Yeah. Do you guys want, do you want to live in a world where everything has a dollar sign next to it? So that you can buy anything you want, or do you want there to be things that are locked away behind things other than dollars? Let us know, and we'll keep talking about things Final Fantasy as we get closer and closer to Endwalker, which will have none of the changes we just talked about.
Thanks, guys. Take care.